2014 was a great year for chess. Chess 24 went live as the Tiger returned. China beat 170 nations north of the Arctic Circle. The world champion held on to his crown. A new contender went on a spectacular run. Here's to a 2015 full of more great chess. Follow it here on Chess 24.
Dear chess fans, hearty welcome to the 2015 Tata Steel Chess Festival here in Vaikanse. I'm your host, Yasser Serouan. Alongside me is dear friend, colleague, Hans Baum. Hans, welcome to the program.
Hello, Yasser.
I'm very pleased to have you alongside me. Today we're starting a little early because, first of all, we have a lot to talk about as we start the championship weekend. As we understand, this has been a marathon event. 11 rounds have been played, but these 2 rounds are very, very special in round-robin tournaments. They're the last rounds. So these are the rounds that the players who are on the top are trying to secure their positions, whereas the players on the bottom are trying to take a very bad experience and turn it into some kind of a positive one.
Well, the pairings are very interesting.
And the pairings today are very interesting. Let's start.
Because Ding plays Carlsen,
which is
so
fantastic.
it's only one point
between them.
So if he wins, they are equal. They switch. Well, he comes.
Yes.
And Geary is playing So.
Also, as we know,
important game.
Wesley So in clear second place, half a point behind the leader. Anish Giri tied for third, half a point behind Wesley So. So those two games are going to be extremely topical today. But as we were coming on
do you hear the music?
Yes, I do.
In the background.
I do.
That is the hymn they play before every round. And now we get some commentary. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here.
Welcome.
Thank you, welcome. And it's in a big hall where all the players are playing. Every round starts like that.
Yes, and of course, since this is the last weekend, the hall is full. Amateur competitions and all the spectators. I saw many visiting dignitaries from around the world, top journalists, top organizers are coming here. They want to secure the players for their events coming up and so on.
With the camera crew from Spain, here we see, for instance, Garcia. We saw
Leoncio Garcia.
Garcia.
Exactly.
So,
but Hans, we came on the air, and I thought you brought up a very good topic to discuss before the games get started. Of course, we can talk about the championship and the jockeying for first and second, but you brought up a very interesting topic and share it with our
well, this is this phenomena that you don't know when it goes bad. You have tournaments, of course, we all know this, that everything goes well, and you don't know why. And all your opponents
cooperate.
They cooperate. They come like flies on the light to you. You are the light. And they come to you, and they all killed, and you don't know why.
Yes.
And you're very happy, of course.
Of course.
But on the other hand, now look at Jobava and Van Wely. They're just talking and smiling. And this Jobava, this is a strange thing happening with him. He is a world top player with 27-30 when he started this tournament, and now he will drop at least 30 points.
Wow.
He is on 1.5 point out of 11. That is so far below his standard. And why? Why is he losing every round again? And the same thing is happening at this moment in the group B, in the challengers group, with Jan Timman.
Yes.
He is last with 3 points. Such a big player, such a beautiful player. It doesn't matter what kind of position he has. Drawing position yesterday, completely drawing position, and he lets himself be mated in 2 moves. And why? But did you ever yourself, Yasser, experience this? That you don't know why things go wrong?
I'm very, very happy to say that in a very long career where I played in many tournaments, I had, happily enough, only one such experience. It was a Linares event where I lost 3 games in a row. Like 1, 2, 3. And really, Hans, I had the feeling that the world turned upside down, that the laws of physics had changed, that my pieces didn't move in the same way that the rules prescribed, and everything I touched was just turning sour. Now, in self-defense, ego speaking here, really I got a very, very bad cold. But that's really not
That's not a real excuse,
issue.
you know. It's not a real excuse, actually.
The real problem is that my confidence just simply disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a shocking fall, and I couldn't explain it even to myself. Months, even now, we're having this conversation. Years later, what has happened?
Your self-confidence goes beyond zero, and you don't know why, and that is actually the problem. But for instance, in The Hague, Jo Bava, he had to play Caruana, number 2 of the world.
Yes.
Just before the game, 5 minutes before the game, he asked me, "What shall I play for opening?"
He was his confidence was so shattered. He was looking for any lifeline. I mean, can I call a friend? The games actually have started, so let's just switch for a moment. But we'll come back to this topic.
This issue,
I really do like to talk about it. And if we had an explanation for why these things happen, you know, we could make a fortune selling the
because everybody
rights.
experiences this now and then on any level.
Now, Ding Liren, who, by the way, if you have looked at the cross table, you'll see a lot of wins and a lot of big fat zeros. This guy has been playing decisive games
he plays for the kill,
throughout. He's an organizer's dream. He comes to the tournament and he says, let's go. And today, big game, perhaps the biggest of his career. He's white against the world champion. Everybody we understand in China is going to be, who's a chess fan, is going to be watching this game.
And there are millions there.
Opening with the queen pawn, as we expect. By the way, Magnus is also very flexible, Grunfelds and what have you. This is, by the way,
this is the first classical game they ever played, so they cannot fall back on memories or on happy memory or whatever. This is the very first game they play.
Right.
Because Ding, to be honest, he is the best unknown player in the West. Because nobody knew him actually here, and maybe that's unfair for such a good player.
But it's the truth.
But it's the truth. What can we do?
He really is that unknown. But we know actually that he's a great talent. We knew that coming in. We just weren't sure.
He's number 15 in the world ranking. Ding.
Very impressive.
And he's coming, because he's only 20. What is he? 21, I think.
He's very young. A standard Queen's Gambit declined opening. By the way, Magnus played Bishop E7, but Magnus is also known for playing Bishop B4, the Rogozin. So, again, very hard to prepare for Magnus. Bishop E7. And, hold on, where is the...
Bishop G5.
Okay, this is the standard. Let me just go to the game.
Bishop F4.
Now, back here, in this particular move order, it's really interesting that White has been given the choice of Bishop F4, Bishop G5. Historically, Bishop G5 is the most common move. However, Bishop F4 does have its proponents, let's say. So Bishop F4 today was Ding's choice, castles E3, B6, and in the old days, the Bishop F4 was considered less powerful because it wasn't putting pressure on the D5 pawn. When you develop the Bishop to F4, the prescribed equalizing move, if you will, was C5. And you'll remember from the Karpov-Korchnoi rivalry that they have played many times these Queen's Gambit decline type of positions, and Korchnoi was playing in this position moves like Knight D2, for example, and there was
the exchanging of C and D pawns is a very, let's say, drawish character, no?
Right. Now, in the old days, they thought B7, B6 was a poor choice, because they thought after C takes D5, obviously you have an option of how to recapture, E takes D5.
Then the pawn on B6 is...
then the bishop is not coming nicely, and then you're committed to more or less Bishop B7. So it was considered that white had an advantage after c takes d5, but many developments have actually been played. Ding leren to play.
Ding is thinking now.
Yes.
So Carlsen has a little preparation advantage because Ding is thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So, the primary moves are c takes d5, as I've just mentioned, bishop d3, queen c2, and rook c1. And all of them are quite reasonable choices.
But c takes d5 is most principal.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk around the stage.
Yeah, so
and come to
Giri Terrasso. That's
Yes.
actually immediately game number 2 in
That we
the
will-
list of attention.
Whoa, and this is not something that you see often. White, Anish has played c4. Knight f3 is more of his as well.
He plays everything nowadays. Actually,
They all do,
Yeah,
it
with
seems.
black and with so that you cannot prepare that easily.
Right. Anish is really noted as a Catalan player, so it's normal that he would fall back on a kingside fianchetto, which he has done. Knight f3 and
D4.
D4. So this is an interesting grab at space, if you will, and basically Wesley is saying, okay, you, white, can play a Benoni with reverse color
Benoni.
with an extra tempo, if you wish. Castles, c5. In this position, knight c6, there is still this ideas of b4 in many positions. I think hold on, how does it go? I think
A3,
it's
E3,
E5, and I think it's actually b4 here that gets into some wild stuff. But okay, c5 was Wesley's choice, e3, knight c6, takes, and then we have a Benoni.
Yeah, with one tempo more.
With one tempo more. d3, bishop, d6. The problem is when you're playing a Benoni as black, one of your primary things in the Benoni, when you have a space disadvantage, is you want to trade a pair of pieces. It's absolutely vital that you trade a pair of pieces. And if you are able to do that, normally you're doing very well. So for example, bishop e7, rook e1, castles. This is a brilliant line of play for white. Because it doesn't matter that, for example, in such a position, you will lose a tempo with your rook, for example, here.
You give the tempo back that
and now you have a very free game. You're going to play bishop g5, knight d2, knight e4. You're going to play a3. And this is a very nice position for white. So this move, bishop d6, is aimed against that. However, at the same time, you're allowing white this opportunity for bishop g5, and knight d2. And by the way, let's just check. Have these players played each other before? I believe they have. Let's take a quick look at their head-to-head stats.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
Anish.
I would not have.
I wouldn't have guessed that either. No. But of course, both are young talents. We don't know when they played each
20
other.
20 and 21. Yeah.
But 2 wins for Anish, none for Wesley, and 3 draws.
Yeah.
So.
But so is well, as Anish, Wesley and Anish are coming. They are learning per tournament, per game actually. So their strength is
rising and
rising. So you don't know how strong they are actually at the moment. So very strong.
All right, Wesley. Pardon me. Anish has played knight a3, which.
It's good to wait till the bishop had already made a tempo.
Yeah.
And wait with knight a3 till the bishop made a tempo. Yeah.
Well, also this knight a3 is a kind of a telltale sign that basically white will be playing for his before break with knight c2 and so on. Let us see how the game has developed from here. By the way, one of the things that I will give Wesley a great deal of credit for is he's really been playing, his openings have been fantastic.
Very good,
He
but
just
also
really
Anish.
played very easily.
Yeah, but also Anish. So actually the young players, probably they can remember and store all these variations and all these openings easily. Maybe that's the difference between young players and older players.
Well, there was a lot of times, for example, that Victor Korch and I worked with Victor. We would just do a lot of analysis, a lot of preparation, and sometimes he actually came and he even forgot the preparation at the board.
Yeah.
Conversely, I was just reading in the New in Chess magazine an interview with Fabiano Caruana. Now, as we know, Fabi went through the Sinquefoil Cup in St. Louis in 2014 with a 7-0 start. And he had a game with MVL, Maxime Bouchard.
Yeah, he
was
forgot.
worried.
Yeah.
He didn't forget.
Yeah.
But during the game, he
This
was doing
at Caracana, what was
yes,
this?
it was the Caracana.
Yeah.
He was absolutely fearful that he had, because he has taken enormous risks.
Yeah.
And any single move out of proper
with
sequence,
G4,
he sacrificed 2 pawns, he's exposed his king.
Yeah.
If he makes one full step, he's actually much, much worse.
Yeah.
So he was frightened to death that he may have forgotten. As it turned out, everything went smoothly. But this is like what you said at the start. When you're having a good result, everything
goes. Yeah, it goes your way. It comes your way.
Now let's see what Wesley is considering after the move knight a3. If Wesley plays the standard castles, then there's knight c2, gift me the pawn, e5, and now b4, because the whole difference is the pawn on b4 is not hanging, because I end up recapturing this pawn.
And then again, the bishop is very nice.
Bishop is very nice. The rook, and this is all working wonderfully for Anish.
Yeah.
So in this position,
so maybe a5 then.
Yes,
but you have to wait with a5 till otherwise you get knight b5.
Precisely.
So you want to wait with
knight b5, bishop here, and again we get this situation which I have discussed before. This idea that any exchange of a single pair of minor pieces and suddenly white's position is looking very, very nice. Okay, bishop c8, rook a8. It's not very clear what black is going to do to equalize. So actually, at this moment, the natural move castles, as well as e5 is a kind of move that you're not really tempted when your king is still in the center.
No.
You like to do something.
You probably castle.
All right, so let's go back to the normal castles routine. Just a second. And let's continue. Knight c2. Then how do you like to play e5 and allow b4, or what do you want to do with the b pawn, Hans? It's not simple.
Well, probably you have to stop this coming on the queen side, so maybe a5.
Okay, but what do you...
well, I don't know.
Am I...
And
okay, you can capture
you can
this
take
guy.
on g3,
You don't lose a pawn, but it's,
maybe
2 bishops, you know.
Well, you have pressure maybe on d3, I don't know. Rook d8.
Yes, rook d1, all very standard moves, and now we see that, bishop e3, d4, we would prefer white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
That's pretty clear. So there are issues.
Yeah.
Let's just continue and our walk around the stage. We want to go next to the game between Vasil Ivanchuk.
Caruana.
Now, you will recall, of course, that Ivanchuk was a tournament leader at one time before he went into preparation by Wesley So that just took the wind out of his sails. Yeah?
Yeah.
But today, of course, he's playing the world's number 2 player by the rating list, Fabiano Caruana. Yeah. By the way, I want to say that we do have a Twitter account, #Tata Steel. We love to hear from you, and we do have a tweet.
Okay.
Hans, what do we have?
Well, we have a question about the game that we are now discussing. Thank you very much, Vikram. Or I don't know what is. No, Vikram is. He's not called Vikram's son. No, that's impossible.
Okay.
But whatever. Whoever asked the question, let's just continue.
What kind of structure does Ivanchuk have against Caruana?
Okay.
Well, a structure. Okay. First of all, Fabiano is a Grunfeld player. Of course, he, like you say, he can be very flexible. Queen's Gambit declined.
Yeah.
we expected, and bishop g5. This was actually a line of play that I liked.
Smyslov or what? But that's different.
Many players
yeah.
like this bishop g5
Yeah,
in their
that's-
repertoire. Knight e4, bishop
Yeah.
f4. We've actually seen this in the tournament here.
Yeah.
And c5. Now that's we've been witnessing this line of play in the top level for many years, where knight g5, white tries to recapture this pawn on c4 in a nice way.
Mhm.
That was not Caruana's choice. He has played c5, takes,
And e3, yeah.
Okay, and so we have this now.
It looks similar, actually. So what is the difference between
I
the
don't-
normal...
I don't know what kind of structure this is called, whether it has a name. It's a very, there's a big
But
difference.
the bishop is not on f4. It's usually on c1, let's say, in this
Yeah.
instruction.
But there's a big difference when the pawn is on e3 versus the pawn on e4. In the normal Grunfeld,
Yeah.
black is getting a lot of counterplay against the d4 pawn. In this particular structure, the d4 pawn is super solid. I remember when Lubomir Fatashnik has come and stayed a year in Seattle, and we did a lot of training together. He was a big, and is still a big, Grunfeld expert. We had many blitz sessions where we were playing this precise ending, and Lubomir
Yeah.
was convinced that this ending was fine for black, whereas I was convinced that white has a pull thanks to the structure, shall we say.
Yeah.
So this is all known theory, going back, by the way, with his last move, black introduces the threat
E5,
of e5,
yeah.
so white dodges that. And again, all of these moves have been played for quite some time, and I actually favor white, but
Yeah.
Grunfeld players are convinced that this position is playable.
It's just playable, yeah.
Let's take a look at their head-to-head.
It's okay that you have to square b1. It's not
to
unimportant.
control,
Yeah,
yes.
because so you cannot put the pressure so easily on b7. Yeah.
Exactly. How have they done when they have played each other? Whoa! 4-4-5 draws.
So completely
well,
equal.
Equal, but
Yeah.
look at the decisive games of players of this caliber. Normally
Yeah.
speaking, the draws have the majority. Here you have 8 victories
Yeah.
against 5 draws. So these players
They
really,
go for it.
yeah,
They hit.
they hit hard.
They clash each other. You know.
They hit very hard. Okay, nice head-to-head stuff. At the moment, it's all theory. Okay, you
Yeah.
can just check your databases at home.
And it's just a matter of taste, no? I think one grandmaster would prefer white, the other grandmaster would prefer black. It's probably the truth is in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
The reason, by the way, I often liked the center pawns over the flank is because they're leveraged. You can use these extra center pawns. So, for example, you think to yourself, this pawn on d4, which is very nice, controls the squares e5 and c5. Natural outposts for white's pieces. So you play moves like rook c5 here. It's not that you want to put a piece on e5. You just, at the moment, you don't have the b file, so why not double
Okay,
up?
but black can play rook ac8 and for
Correct.
instance knight b4.
Correct.
So if you
Everything.
play knight b4 for instance.
Very
So,
good, very
I
good.
don't know.
And let's say in this position we trade everything, yes?
Okay.
We trade. Oh, pardon me. Actually, I take that back. I will want to utilize the c line. Let me play bishop c7, touching the rook,
Okay.
trying to kick the rook somewhere, I don't know.
Wait a minute, I also have knight a6, I don't know. Is that something or not? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. No, but this doesn't look very convincing.
Well,
Knight a6.
Okay.
Oh no, wait a minute. No, not a knight a6. No, rook d7. then.
rook d7. Okay, so wait a minute. I have bishop b5, a little tickle there.
Knight d3 I wanted to play.
Knight e5.
Knight
a little
e5,
tickle,
then bishop takes.
and bishop takes.
Okay, yeah, you mean...
I've got a little something. A
Okay,
little.
you take on c5. Take on c5.
Take on c5, take on c5. Oops, sorry. Sometimes I lose the grip of the pieces. Did you do this in any of your tournament games? You reach for a piece, You lifted it up because it fell out of your hand. It's splashing on the board or something. Well, I do it with the mouse all the time, you know.
I think it's not too much.
Not too
F6,
much.
and you have knight d3 also.
And you're happy to
you can even
go into a bishop's office.
No, it's nothing.
Nothing. Very good. By the way, we have shout out to Grandmaster Jan Gustafsson. He's got some predictions for us. Jan, predictions. Ding, a draw. Geary, a draw. MVL versus Leveronian. A win for MVL, who's doing very well, would be great. Chucky Fabiano draw. Who do we have there? Jabova. Ooh, Jabova.
Jabova again losing.
Ooh, Raja. Hu Yifan won. Well, by these predictions, it's a bloody championship round it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay.
But I'm not sure about this prediction. No? I think if you have other predictions, then I will believe that too, let's say. Yeah.
I can't believe. Are you being dragged away from us?
Really?
No, it would
not
be.
Yet, not yet.
It would be early.
No, not yet. No.
I'm holding on to
it's
you.
too early. No.
Okay, I was afraid that we were going to lose you there for a moment.
We have to go to another game because
please.
this is rather static.
It's all theory. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to go back to a featured game. Ding did play bishop d3. Now this bishop a6, that is a bit off. Bishop a6. I'm not familiar with this one. Very curious. Normally speaking, black is putting his obviously
bishop,
on. He's played b6 for a reason of fianchetto. First instinct is to grab this bishop and misplace the knight.
And play queen a4.
But then I realized immediately that after knight b4 castle, this knight could switch back to d5, and after c5 it will be hard to prove an advantage. Still slight edge for white, but nothing special. That was why Ding actually played in the game queen e2, inviting black to make the trade. And queen c8.
Yeah, so he wants to take and play queen a6 again.
Okay,
well, let's the idea. Let's say you
put
castle.
The obvious move on the board.
Okay,
castle.
take.
But be careful, Hans.
Yeah.
I'm a pawn
C7 is hanging.
Yes.
So maybe c5 instead of.
Or here c5.
Or here c5. Yeah, here c5.
It's going to be hard for
white to prove he's better. Because as soon as you exchange these pawns c and d, as we mentioned before,
you get very
even. You have to be.
And remarkably, I just saw the webcam. Their world champion was playing very confidently his last move, and let me just check what the last move in fact was. And we've got it. Let's go back. Hold on. Just a second. I'll switch, and I come back to the world. And castle c5 immediately.
Okay, that was the other move. Okay.
First impressions is white should stand up. You should have a little pull. D takes.
But very little.
Bishop takes, and then I put the rooks in the center like a good Russian schoolboy.
Imagine I would take on c4 and play queen a6.
Yes,
what
I
is
can
this?
imagine.
Are you impressed now? By?
I want to play knight b5, but okay. Let me misplace the knight. So the knight is, shall we say, offsides. I don't want to see that knight returning to the center anytime soon. So let me make the quiet, tiny little move a3, and white has a pull. I'm going to play b4 and artificially isolate the knight on a6. What was it Tarash said?
Yeah.
One bad piece spoils the whole position, you know?
Well.
I mean,
white always has a very tiny little something, because he's. It looks as if he's a little bit ahead in development, a little bit.
Switch players, and we would say Magnus has his position.
Yeah.
If Magnus was white, we would say that Magnus is going to have a long, fruitful afternoon enjoying his position. So we think that Ding is doing good. Let's go to another game. How about Levon Aronian?
Aronian.
Where is
Maxime
he?
Vachier-Lagrave.
This is Yobova.
No, that's the wrong
B.
one. That's the B group.
Yes. This is
No,
Vasil. This is
you have
Wesley.
to go up. There,
Up.
there he is at the left. At the left.
At the left.
At the left.
Okay,
yes.
this looks like a Catalan. The old.
Yeah.
By the way, I had Dennis's uncle.
Yeah, Ken is a
Yes,
song. He knows
Hey.
everything about the Catalan. Yeah.
Okay, so
That
let's
was
go
his-
back front.
You know, when he came to the Netherlands,
Yes.
Genna,
Yes.
from Russia, of course, as we all know,
Soviet Union at
Soviet
the time.
Union at the time,
Yeah.
and he played his Catalan against
Everybody.
against us, let's say,
The
the Dutch playbook. And we were trying to let's say to find some recipe against
Yes.
this, and it was impossible because he knew so much about his opening all the time. He won so many games with his Catalan. It was funny.
It was
It irritating and funny, both of them.
It was breakfast, lunch, and dinner
Yeah,
for him.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, he knew too much. Yeah, it was funny. It was nice.
But Vladimir Kramnik has kind of picked up the gauntlet from Ghana, amongst others, including Anish. And the Catalan system has actually been squeezed to move 30 or something. And Bishop D6 has recently
even
become
more. No, there was a training session with Korchnoi when Korchnoi was also coming from Soviet Union to the Netherlands.
Yes.
It must have been in '76.
Yes.
And we had some analysis then, and they from the opening from the Catalan, they went up to after move 40.
What?
Yeah, after move 40. We were analyzing endgames that came directly out of some
1976?
Yes,
Oh.
97. That's the way Korchnoi wanted to analyze. He never stopped, you know. He said,
Yes.
"No, don't stop."
Keep
And then-
continuing.
and we said, "Okay, white is okay, or black
Black is
is no, and continue." And he was very,
Wow.
very fanatic in that, you know.
Wow, that must
Yeah.
have been quite an awakening experience.
Yes,
You,
it
you,
was-
you, you, you were like happy with the first 12 moves, never 9 and then.
Well, it was a kind of professionalism that we didn't know. You know,
Yeah.
I think we were very. We are from the school from Euwe, so let's say you have a good position. But what is good?
Yeah.
no, continue.
Very interesting. So Bishop D6, again, there's many moves have been played here, but this has been the latest and most topical. Now Rook E1. White obviously is saying
Wants to play E4.
E4,
Yeah.
and especially thank you that you put your bishop and knight here. I want to play E4, E5. No, I don't allow you. I take a tempo. And now black says, okay.
He comes back, yeah.
Okay.
So it's a kind of
Draw
is
off, yeah.
offer, but
Of
who is
course.
going to... you
Oh,
know
yeah.
that some players, and I know that, for instance, Carlsen was irritated that Ivanchuk was making such an easy draw against him in, what was it, Rotterdam or The Hague?
The
Rotterdam.
Hague.
Okay, one
The
of the...
Hague,
yeah, on
he
the
stopped
Hague.
the streak.
Yeah, he stopped the streak with 6 out of 6. But Karpov also had this Spanish line with rook
Zaitsev.
with rook f8 e8, and then when you play bishop knight g5,
You must
come back. But then when you play knight f3 again, and many people play this to have 2 moves,
Right.
so to
time
have
on the clock.
and to have time on the clock.
And
But then
make
he
the
played
time
one
control.
time. He played
Johnny Vanderbilt.
Jean van der Wiel. So Van der Wiel played it once and twice, but he played it a third time. And then Karpov was thinking, what shall I do? And of course, Van der Wiel had prepared that when he escaped this Droy's line, this repeating of moves. So Karpov thought for a very long time, and then he played rook f8, and they agreed to a draw. He said, I want to have a draw, 3 times repetition. And then Karpov was irritated, but I couldn't understand that. Actually, I don't understand Carlsen's irritation either. It's the right of a player to fight or not to fight as white.
Yes.
I mean, as white, you give actually your advantage
you-
as white. You
yeah.
give it to your opponent.
Right.
Okay, so what is wrong with that?
Right.
I mean, maybe it's not your mentality, but
Right.
you cannot blame your opponent by repeat. Then you should use another system.
Indeed.
What do you think?
Agreed. Let's have a quick check of their head-to-head before the start of the game. I'm
Yeah.
sure they've played a few games together. 1 win for MVL, 3 for Levon.
Yeah.
Of course, Levon was number 2 in the world
Yeah.
for many years, and 4 draws, and most recently a draw in St. Louis
But
between
again,
these two players.
Again, you cannot compare these statistics with elderly people. I mean, Lagrave is also young,
Yes.
22.
Yes.
So what are we talking about? All these wins
Maybe came when...
Yeah, they came from the time
yeah.
that he was still young. So you shouldn't go too far back, actually, in history.
But this was also the point of Victor Korchnoi, too. Victor really had a very, very strong opinion about this, that when you're playing a young, up-and-coming superstar, you beat him.
To have some pressure on the next game.
Psychological advantage and carry it through. Anyway, this repetition, by the way, this invitation, do you want to make a draw? And VL says no, by the way.
So he plays for the...
Championship round,
yes.
we play.
We play.
Bishop g5, knight b8, d7, and now, do we have it or do we have some more moves, pardon me?
Either knight d2, probably. Knight d2 or knight c3.
We have knight
probably knight d2. Because you want to push e4 anyway.
Yes. Now, you want to push e4 anyway, and we also understand that black is always trying to get in c7, c5 and equalize, especially with the queen on c1. If black is quick with rook c8, his position will be fine. So if we play c5, the white's point is that after e4, black has no time to capture because suddenly and obviously there's an oopsie daisy.
You have this problem.
Okay. So one thing black could do is
h6.
h6.
So then take, and e4.
Let's say take with the queen, e4, and now e5.
That's another setup. That's another setup.
It's a different animal.
Yeah.
Let us say.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we're still in
preparation and theory.
If you're telling me 40 years ago Catalan was analyzed to 40 moves, I'm thinking that this is just the starting.
But this is not a typical, let's say, a Catalan advantage.
No.
Usually the square c5 is the square that white is controlling and actually, okay.
Yeah, whether it be with a3, b4 or
what is the statistics actually between?
Yeah, we just saw.
We saw,
three wins for Levon and 1 win for MVL.
Yeah, so okay, we saw, okay.
Okay, let's just go to Magnus again because I think we have an interesting development in that particular game.
Knight b5.
We were talking about misplacing a knight on a6. Ding didn't have anything to do with that. He said knight b5, and we have a tweet. What did we have?
Ding, Lear, and Carlsen already looks like a draw. I don't know. Yeah. We hope so too, Mr. Taji.
Yeah.
We hope so too.
I actually I'm seeing a full-fledged fight developing, and by the way, this knight b5 is a very irritating move because it basically is an in-your-face kind of challenge.
Yeah.
Look, the rook.
Yeah.
I want to...
I think this is not completely... I think Ding is playing.
Absolutely.
Why do you think this is a draw?
No. I mean, it may be a draw. It may turn out to be a draw. But wait. I just boldly, if you don't mind for a moment, I'll put some potential type of threat. Let's imagine after knight b5 we see moves like this. Yes?
Yeah.
Just what have you. And... I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to show you what I want to show you. This is really ridiculous.
Want to play rook c1 and then do something.
Absolutely, I want to
play
with
the queen. You have square c7 with white, which is irritating, and you can come up with, as you said, with a3 and b4. I mean, what is black going to do?
I wanted to put in a tactic on the board that I'm afraid I won't be able to do. The tactic that I wanted to put up on the board is black has to be always watchful of a bishop takes e6 when you have a
rook c7, but you played yourself knight c6.
I know. I put the pieces in the way. I'm sorry.
Play it on the right squares. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Then you have nothing to prove.
So be very careful about playing c5 takes d4 in your anxious moments of proving equality that you don't end up with a rook on c1 and a tactic against you.
But even when it's an equal position, white has maybe easier play, don't you think so?
Yes,
because
well, he knows
he
where
just
the pieces
develops
are
the
going.
rooks on c1, d1, and you can also play a3 and come on the queen side. And black has to be very careful where to put his pieces. And
it's incumbent upon black
the rook
to
on
be
a8
accurate.
takes a very long time before it's developed. So white has something. Huh?
I definitely
White
like
has
white's position. Let's
Yeah.
just continue our quick search around the board. Here, we started a little bit talking about bad results. Women's world champion Hu Yifan. She's actually played a good tournament.
I think she plays a very good tournament. If you look at her games and you stop at a certain moment, she could have had 50%.
For example.
Yeah. Because she had very nice positions, very defendable positions, nothing wrong actually. Edges, positions with an edge. And a lot of things didn't work.
The game with Yvonne Saric was a big turnaround.
Yes.
She had an opportunity. And I was
against Ding. She
Yeah.
a good position after the open. She could repeat moves, by the way.
Yeah,
But,
and for example, with Magnus Carlsen, I was sitting there watching world champion Magnus Carlsen with Hu Yifan, and she pressed him to really play a great game. In fact, the producer of the show, Macaulay Peterson, he said to me, she's a tough cookie. I mean, she was making life really difficult for
No, but
Magnus.
she's completely in her place in this tournament, and I hope she will play more of these top tournaments.
She's deserving.
With the men. She deserves to play on this level and with these world-class players. And maybe she will do the same as Judith Polgar and stop playing with women. Maybe only play the World Championship and the Olympiads, the Women Olympiads. But not competing anymore in like Judith did, because she's really up to
class.
this class.
Yeah, I agree. So this again is all very standard. You'll see, for example, numerous games with Vladimir Kramnik where Vladimir is white, often likes to squeeze from these nice little positions.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
White has the same here as in the game with Ding. White is always. Maybe it's equal, but white plays it plays easier with white. No, that's always
exactly. Yesterday,
look at this.
Radislav Wojtaszek had perhaps a really, really cold shower. When I had finished the show, essentially it was bishop and 3 connected pass pawns against a rook. That was the imbalance. And Radislav was completely winning against Ding Liren. He lost.
Yeah, that was
so
terrible.
that was a real blow. Today, of course, he's playing Yvonne Saric, who has qualified from the B group last year to this event. Yvonne has had a difficult time, but okay, they're the very theoretical English attack, all of these moves. Actually, here in Vaikanze, numerous years ago, this very, very sharp line has been debated often. All of these moves, again, are in the database.
Just buy an openings book.
And you can see how it all goes.
Look at this. This is
all theory, which is we're talking about the theory and how it's developed so incredible. And then, Queen A8, and, somehow you put these positions in the chess engine, and again, general rules don't really apply. It's all about concrete
tactics.
Move on move. All of these moves have been, and now you come to some position where you have to take stock and say, if I had this position on my board, would I prefer white? Would I prefer black?
But Kortsnoy would say, we continue.
We continue.
We don't stop here.
We don't stop. And D5, indeed.
Of course.
H4. By the way, of course, D5 was in order to defend the pawn on D4.
And to open up the center.
And it's remarkable how oftentimes, more than often, in the Sicilian, when black gets in his D5 liberation break,
it's freeing a move.
It's normal.
It should be okay.
Yeah. That's when you've and I'm sorry, once again, there's no really reason to stop and analyze this position because, again, I strongly feel that this is a database position. Just look at the opening games, and the players are still in the soup. Sorry, this is. We continue our walk around.
Let's
the stage.
go now to the game that is emotionally probably a big one, and that's Badur Yobava, no?
Yes, Luke Van Velde Badur. Sorry, this is that ending, Fabiano, we discussed,
Yeah.
And we haven't, and again, we started our program with this world-class player, Badur Jovava, having the worst event of his career.
Ever.
And,
And why? And how to stop it.
And how to stop
that's
it.
actually the point. So my question was to you, did you ever experience this? And you
I
said,
said
okay, I had 3
losses.
losses in a row. But what did you do then?
Then it was over. Then I said, okay, now I shut down and I play for a draw. I had to stop the bleeding.
Okay, so that's correct. You have to stop the bleeding.
Yes.
That's actually what Yobava doesn't do. He continues to.
It's not his
get-
nature to force a draw.
Yeah, but you
At
have
some
to,
point,
you
it's
have to
self-preservation,
Yes,
right?
yes, you have to do something. I once played, well, just a story. It's only in one game. I was playing against Jan Timman in one of the Dutch championships, and I was in a position. I knew the position, and still I was thinking and thinking, and I looked at the clock, and in those days we played 40 moves in 2.5 hours.
That's right,
So you
yeah.
had some time to
Right.
think. But I was thinking about, I don't know what. After 1 hour, I knew still the position, but didn't know why I was thinking. So I thought, I have to stop this. I have to do something. I went out of the tournament hall. It was the Friesland Bank.
Okay.
It was a bank. It was in Leeuwarden. I went outside the tournament hall. I went to
Fresh
a
air.
pub.
Oh,
A
okay.
pub in the neighborhood. I went to the bartender. It was a dark pub.
Yeah.
There was some locals there sitting. It was dark, and there was some music on a local radio. I said, "Give me a double whiskey." I took the double whiskey. I drank it rather quickly.
Bam.
The bartender told me, "You probably need it."
He-
That's what he
10
said.
guilders or whatever.
I gave him the money.
Yeah.
I didn't discuss with him because I was in the game, of course. I went back to the playing hall. I didn't tell anybody. So I continued this game. I came into a bad rook ending, but I made a draw.
Okay.
And later on in the evening, Jan congratulated me with the draw. He said, "Well, you
played
defended
very
very
well."
well." And then I told him the story. I said, "Well,
This
maybe
is
it's
what
not
happened.
maybe it's not legal, or maybe it's not maybe it's against the rules." But I was so disgusted by my thinking and thinking about nothing. So I did this. I went out and went to the pub. So it was very funny. Like, this is a way to stop for yourself. You have to do something.
Yeah.
You don't know what.
I've never done what you've just described, but what I have done very, very often is go to the bathrooms and splash my face with very cold water.
Yeah.
I wanted cold water. It's like I needed to stop this drifting because
Yeah.
I've had exactly the same thing. My mind is not focused, and I don't know what is it that I'm thinking about, and I'm just not in the game.
Yeah.
And that was the way to
Yeah.
return myself, was this cold water.
Yeah.
We have the Bogo Indian,
Yeah.
again, all very theoretical stuff, and D5, and Loke is thinking, and I don't know quite about what. Perhaps he wants knight D4, but I think everybody understands the standard is castle. So still, nothing special has occurred in this game. Oh,
Well,
I beg your
probably
pardon.
he plays
A few more moves did happen.
E5, yeah.
Okay, just a second. Pardon me. D5. Black to
E5,
play. I apologize.
Yeah.
E5.
Castle and A5.
A5.
So to have the square C5 for the knight.
Yeah.
You have the same with black setup with on the other side of the board. So with the
Yeah.
pawn on H5, and then you get the bishop, and then you have you know what I mean. So
Right,
it's
right,
exactly
right.
the same system. You get this from this C6, D6, G6 stuff. You know.
Yeah, and I always thought that white was a little bit better here. A standard concept for white is that you challenge a little bit the control over C5. If
So knight D7.
Knight D7, and then you go for this F4. I saw some games of Anatoly Karpov where he played the white side almost like a machine. He was very impressive. And let me just put a bad move on. Well, not a bad move, but you know what I mean. Okay, so one idea of Anatoly's is that he liked to use the square e4 for his pieces. So he was constantly
threatening F6,
F5, F6, and
yeah.
okay, sometimes the guy escaped with a draw, but
Yeah.
other times he just was suffering.
Yeah.
So study the games of Anatoly
You have
Karpov.
nice attacking chances with white in this
and
position.
you haven't invested anything. That's what
Yeah.
we call a risk-free attack. Again, let me go back to the game of Magnus Carlsen, because this is such a crucial game for the...
Nothing happened after knight
Oh,
b5. Oh, did.
Or knight b5
He's
and
thinking.
a full stop.
He's thinking.
By the way, once again, we love your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. Our tweet is hashtag Tata Steel Chess. So be sure to keep us on our toes, so to speak.
Yeah.
If we make an error, let us know. You mentioned Jan Timman,
Yeah.
and yesterday, I can't even explain what has happened. Essentially, he has rook and knight
It was a draw.
against rook and bishop.
Yes.
And he
And
has
even had
extra
a
pawn,
and he let himself be mated.
almost in two
You know,
moves.
Jan also had once a tournament. We were preparing for a tournament, IBM, I think, somewhere in the year
In the
70s.
early 70s.
In the early 70s, we went to. We rented a little house in the forest. We were eating very good, you know, no,
Yeah.
no drinking.
Yeah.
We went boxing, training on boxing somewhere in the neighborhood. Then Jan started this IBM tournament with 0 out of 5.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he said, okay, now I stop. Then he started also having some parties.
Drinking.
And then he came up to 50% again later on in the tournament. So sometimes you have to break whatever you're doing, and either it's healthy or the opposite, but
Right.
you have to break something, you know.
Well, it was something. Najdorf told me also a similar story. He had some marathon tournament in Cuba in the early days with all of the big names, and Najdorf, you know, like you and Jan, had done some training before the event, a clean lifestyle, so to speak, started with some horrible score. Najdorf said, that's it, party till 3 o'clock in the morning, and he came up at the end, you know, he started beating everyone, and again...
It's not always. You can. It can also be
you
the
don't
other
know
way
the-
around, you know,
you
because you don't know
the recipe.
Yeah, you don't know
that-
the recipe.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but it's the same with when you're doing well. You also don't know, but then you don't want to change anything.
To
of course, you know.
encourage our tweeters, Gusti, tell us what's we.
No big fan. Bishop is leaving weak light squares on the queen. It looks like leftovers from the fishing mates. Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, that's a little insightful, but I agree. I think that White has just an easier game. And by the way, Magnus, it's knight b5, and he still has stopped. Is it? Do we understand?
Yeah.
Let me just check the time.
But the idea, the word leftovers is nice. It's nice.
Okay, so let's look at it concretely. Really, it's clear for us that what White wants is the simple rook c1, putting his rook vis-a-vis the black queen, and also knight c7.
Yeah.
So two things more or
Yeah.
less hanging over black's head. Let's put a move on the board. Let's just go.
But you know, the way Magnus is playing is also interesting. Usually he has some kind of rhythm in his moves.
That's
And
right.
sometimes he starts thinking, and then he thinks for a rather long time, sometimes half an hour. He did the same against Giri, when Giri played c5. I don't know if you know, if you remember this
Right.
game in round 3, I think. Or round 2,
What opening
round
was it
2.
from?
Yeah.
Jeez,
well,
then it could make a connection. I'm not connecting. Go ahead.
Okay,
tell,
okay.
go.
He played c5, and at this
Okay.
moment also Magnus was thinking for nearly half an hour, and he made this draw with bishop f8, and it was a second round, I think.
Okay.
And so sometimes he just stops, and I don't know if he has to solve everything, or that he tries to remember, or that he really wants to understand the position.
Yeah.
But to take such a long time for a move, that's nice, no?
So he's on 20 minutes at the moment. So I just put a move down, knight b8
Yeah.
to d7, and just to see what could happen. Then rook c1, very natural move.
Yeah, people who are interested in the move times of the chess players can look it up on Chess24.
Yeah, they give
They give all the moves
the
and the
time
time and the
stamping.
thinking.
Yeah.
If you're interested in this,
Okay.
it's a nice service.
Oh, I like it very much, by the way, to see how the players are. So let's say we play queen, we get out of the c-file. So exactly how does white
You have so
continue?
many. You have so many moves.
Yes.
You have h3, a3, rook c2, rook c1, whatever you want. Rook d1. I don't know. I mean, what is?
Well, black wants to develop his rooks as
Yeah.
well. I mean, he's just basically saying, okay, are you when are you jumping to d6? What exactly do you do to increase your advantage? So Magnus is concerned about something here. May I make an offering? This is remember I had mentioned the e6 pawn some time back, and I'm trying to set up a tactic. Probably it doesn't work, so I apologize in advance. But this is the tactic that I want to set up, if it works or not. Obviously, my intention is if you take my knight here,
knight g5 or something.
Knight g5, you have to play more or less a queen d5. And I don't know at the end of the day whether we like it for white or not. It's two pawns and a rook for two minor pieces.
Yeah.
It's a standard imbalance, So I don't know if this is a concern at the moment because, okay, you have to do something, and I was just putting some moves on the board. And these are more or less in logical play,
Very difficult to foresee, let's say, 10 moves ahead. What will happen? And, and it depends what you're doing now. So it's if you really have to find out on this moment what to play, it's I can imagine he takes his time at the moment.
All right, as he's taking his time, let's continue our walk around the stage. Again, the Hu Yifan game, that ending is still, I believe, very much in theory. Once more also of the game of Wojciech and Ivan Saric. I believe that the players still are in the theory. And we have developments in MDL versus Levon. Now, what did you say about Levon? Because also he had a really miserable
start, but he came back a little bit.
First half was
first half was miserable, but then he came back a little bit.
So at the moment, is he losing rating points at the moment?
I think so, but not too much. They all come back when they meet Jobava. then they come back. Then they get his
But by the way, again, I want to say, please do not misjudge Badur's result here. Look at his games against Jan Timman. Remember, he had this match. It was fantastic games that he was playing against Jan. It was like Jan was a perfect foil for him. At the moment, thank you to our producers, Levon is
losing 13 points.
By the way, that's a lot at this level. I mean, it's very meaningful for your honorarium, for your invitations. So
I think
yes,
I have to go.
Oh,
to the live audience, just a kilometer from here.
Okay.
In a big hall. So it's a shame.
I
would prefer to sit here, but on the other hand, the live audience is also nice. It's also nice.
I would hold on to you. Thank you, Hans. I very much enjoyed our conversation.
I'll see you tomorrow again.
Okay.
Okay. Have a nice day, and I hope you will have a beautiful round.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It will be a packed audience, I assure you. This the final weekend of the Weikanzee Tata Steel Chess Festival. Normally speaking, over the 17 days or so of the chess festival, you're really expecting more or less 17,000 unique visitors, and this, the final weekend, is always the one that draws the most visitors out there. So I don't know, the webcam will show how many spectators there are, but I assure you that when Hans goes to speak, he really does have a packed house. Thank you for your tweet. Oh, I won't take I won't take a shot at your name. I'll mispronounce it terribly. Thanks for the great coverage. How could you explain Levon Aronian's bad results these last 3 months? Really, I believe I'm as clueless as you and anybody else. For me, Levon, I'm going to say for the better part of 5 years, has been the world's #2 player, and firmly so. He's extraordinary talent, and things just have not broke his way. I think one of the worst things that has happened for Levon in his career is at the very crucial events. I'm talking about the candidates matches, the candidates tournaments, where he goes into these events more or less as the pre-tournament favorite. He hasn't come out as the challenger. And of course, at his level, the Mount Everest is the World Championship. He wants to become world champion. Anything less is less. So he expects the highest from himself, and his failures over the last 5-6 years may have knocked some wind out of his sails. Otherwise, really, I'm at a loss. I do apologize. Let me just bring you up to date when we have left it with friend Hans Bohm. We left it here, knight bt2, c5, black gets in his break, white gets in his advance. The bishop has to step out of the fork of e4, e5. e5 came, white is gaining space very nicely, opening up his bishop, and more importantly, what white wants to do is secure the square d6. We'll see that shortly. Knight d5, bishop e7, queen e7, knight e4. Very, very standard play. Again, I just boldly point out the obvious, that the white wants to take control, bring a knight to d6, and he'll stand very well. Takes on d4, queen d2. The problem is if we jump too quickly with knight d6, the knight is only supported by the pawn on e5, and there's the tactic that after knight takes e5, black has the Zwischenzug knight f3 before recapturing the knight. So we can't be too quick. First we go queen d2 in order to recapture the pawn on d4 with the queen, and then play knight d3. And are we up to date yet? I believe, just a second, let me double check, I apologize. And queen d2 is the last move. Levon Aronian to play. Of course, Levon is staring at the position, and he recognizes that knight d6 is an issue for him, and how he wants to deal with that issue. One suggestion, just one thought that he may be thinking, is how about this move d3? At first it looks kind of cute, because you go, okay, after queen takes d3, this knight on d7, which is a little bit passive, suddenly gets a chance to trade itself for the rather aggressive colleague on e4. And at first glance you might think, okay, this is a very nice position for black, and it is true that this knight on d5 stands very well, but you get to this position and then you have a sudden fright. You go, oh dear, what about knight g5? Threatening checkmate on the spot. You stop the checkmate with g6, and oh dear, the knight comes back to e4, and then d6 and f6 are suddenly a problem. So there is a serious concern how to deal with that issue, and let me see what Levon's solution was before I reinvent the wheel. Rook a8, d8. Okay, so that move suggests to me that Levon is saying to white, please carry out your threat, make the occupation of d6 in the near future, and I will just live with this knight when it comes to d6 by being able to step back with my bishop on a8. So let me say For example, queen takes d4. Again, I believe that the immediate knight d6 runs into the tactic knight takes e5. So again, we have to prepare this with queen takes d4. And now, Levon, I'm not a big fan of this knight on d7, but queen b4 to just try to take away some of White's attacking piece. Or, let me just say, even h7, h6. And again, thanks to this rook, knight d6 is not an issue, because in this case, two pieces attack d6. So at the moment, I would simply say that I have a preference for White. I like his space, I like his control, but nothing terribly decisive is going on. Let me go to the game of Wesley So for a moment, because we have a reversed Benoni, and Benoni structures are always so nicely imbalanced. There's lots of fighting taking place. Let me just go and find that game in a moment. I'm getting there, and finally I found it. Well, black is still not... Whoa! Okay, when we have left it, I considered this move e5, and I said I was reluctant to do it as long as the black king is still in the center of the board. And I do believe that it's a little bit dangerous, and we see why right away. Anish has played this move c5. It wasn't required or anything, but it was his attempt to refute black's setup. The point of bishop take c5, bishop takes c5. I was about to get on my high horse and talk about knight takes e5, knight takes e5, rook e1, recovering the piece thanks to the pin on the e file. And of course that didn't happen. But after bishop takes c5, knight c4, White wants to recover his pawn. Knight f6, d7, very common retreating move in Benoni. Rook e1, and black to play. All right, you've heard me talk about the fact that it's in White's best interest to trade pairs of pieces, as the setup, the structure favors White when he can get rid of... Okay, black has some space, you trade pieces so that the space advantage is neutralized, and I prefer White's position here, not by so much, but I prefer White's position. So at this moment, Wesley has got to contemplate, at least, what happens if I try to keep my extra, or my material, if you will, with a move like f7, f6. And black creates a nice, what I would call, picket fence. What black is trying to do is keep White's pieces at bay. Now f7, f6 injures certain light squares, if you will, and it's kind of an invitation to go knight here with the threat of check. If black castles, he has to be very careful that he doesn't end up getting checkmated on the h-file. Before I share with you what I mean by a checkmate on the h-file, I'd like to give you a moment to guess where my thoughts are heading. So give the position, and you should know these patterns because they occur hundreds of times or thousands of times. They're a classical pattern, and you should know these patterns are very important. While you're thinking, I'll just take a tweet on the board, and let's see what we have. Question for Grandmaster Serwan. How do Grandmasters visualize the chessboards in their minds? As a 2D or a 3D board? Now that's actually a beautiful question, and really a question for the generations, because there was no 2D screen in my chess career, there was only a 3D screen. So, of course, I visualize the chessboard when I was calculating as a three-dimensional board. And it would be very interesting to ask, for example, the young player Wei, who is leading the challenger section, whether he calculates in a 2D board. Today, the digital age, everybody is using the databases and the chess engines, and I think every single person I know, when they use their computers, put it on the two-dimensional board as opposed to the three-dimensional graphic user interface. So I'm going to say today's players see the board in a two-dimensional screen, like they just have a picture, whereas I used to see it in three-dimensional. Back to our game of Anish Giri and Wesley So. The problem here is there's this awkward check. After black sticks his king in the corner, there's a check. After black is captured, and now suddenly this bishop shockingly stops the king from returning to the g8 square, and in the meanwhile white has two checkmates in one threats: queen h4 mate and queen h3 mate. So that was the checkmate. I would just like to mention that Wei Yi, who is in a two-horse race with David Navarra in the qualifying challengers group, has a half a point lead going into the game. Today he plays against the Dutch ladies champion Anna Haas, and he already has a dominating position. So with only 2 rounds to go, if Wei wins, he stands in very, very good stead and will likely be invited either by just qualifying or tying for first, if he ties for first, to the A group next year. Let me just mention, this is extraordinary, but he is only a mere 15 years of age, and he's closing in on the 2,700 rating ceiling, which we really start to define as world class. So what he is doing in this tournament, and you can see we have Anna Haas in orange. We have the back towards us on your webcam. There is the young man we're talking about, who is leading the qualifying group B challengers and stands in a winning position at the moment. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back in 5 to 10 minutes. We hope you're enjoying our championship weekend coverage of the 2015 Tata Steel Chess Festival. I'm your host, Chess Grandmaster Yasser Serwan. One of the highlights of all of our broadcasts is when we get the players after their games to come and share with us. We will hope to do that. We never know who's going to show up, but please do stay tuned for that, and we'll be back in 5-10 minutes.
"2014 was a great year for chess. Chess 24 went live as the Tiger returned. China beat 170 nations north of the Arctic Circle. The world champion held on to his crown. A new contender went on a spectacular run. Here's to a 2015 full of more great chess. Follow it here on Chess 24.
Good afternoon, chess fans, and welcome again to our live coverage of the 2015 Tata Steel Chess Festival. We're in the championship rounds, round 11. Hold on, what am I saying? Round 12. Championship weekend. I'm with Grandmaster Jan Smeets. Jan, welcome aboard. Teammate. Well, when I left, before I left on break, I was just saying that Wei Yi in the Challengers group is in a 2-horse race with David Navarra. He had a half a point lead. Today he was playing the Dutch ladies champion Anna Haas, and he really won a scorcher of a game. Yeah. It's already over. Anna Haas, probably looking at Anisha's game, decided to do a repeat. Were you the same?
Yeah.
And what do we know about this system, Jan?
Well, Queen of 3 looks a bit strange, of course.
It does. I mean, these days everybody's somehow playing English attacks. Maybe it doesn't work against this particular. But Queen F3.
Yeah, it really looks strange, but it's quite a typical move in Sicilians. You just want to castle as fast as possible, and maybe the queen can be useful on either G3 or H3, trying to just mate the black king.
Exactly. Okay. And again, this is Anna is playing the position as has Anish, and everybody. This is all big theory from a previous round. Now here, Anish didn't play Queen C7.
No,
I
I'm
think
pretty sure he did. No.
Or was it still Queen C7? Or was it Rook C8?
No, White actually deviated from this game.
Okay, so go ahead, take it. So in this position, Anish didn't. Did he play E5?
I think it was E5, Knight B3, Queen C7.
Okay, so we're.
Yeah, I think King B1 was the new game. It was Bishop G5, Bishop E7.
That was with Saric, right? Yes.
And then King takes.
Right. Okay. So earlier in the A group, Bishop G5, Bishop E7. Actually, and it was very rather nice the way Black developed. And he immediately put his king back on G8.
I think it's crucial to get your knight on F6. That's the main idea.
All right. So King B1. And then...
Yeah, and now after Rook C8 F6, Black is basically lost.
Whoa!
Yeah, because D7 is hanging. Well, it's just protected by the Black Queen, and you can play Bishop B6, and that's a really nasty threat.
Aha! Whoa! And there's going to be sacrifices on F6, and it all goes very nicely for White. So maybe Rook C8. Did Black have to play Knight F6?
Well, I was actually watching the games backstage, and I thought that Knight F6 is a bit dangerous as well, because you can now go Bishop G5.
Which is very typical.
And I didn't analyze this, but it just looked dangerous.
It looks nice for White, actually. I mean, if you play...
Well, Knight E4 is the move, I guess.
Knight E4?
And yeah, I didn't calculate this, but somehow it looked dangerous.
It looked dangerous.
But it might just be good for Black, actually.
Hold on. So Knight F6 was a key, crucial.
Yeah.
I wonder why Anna didn't play Knight F6. Could it be that she was afraid of this type of thing coming on the board? I'm not sure. I don't
G4
know.
It might be a bit slow.
It looks very slow. So Knight F... Oh, pardon me. So one more look. We think... pardon me, Ian, to quote yourself, Rook C8, losing move, F6 and splat. So Knight F6... again, Knight D5. No, Knight D5.
No.
This is basically Black is very happy when you have to occupy the D file with the pawn. Yeah.
Yeah. White always wants to take back on D5 with a piece here.
Exactly, to keep this. So Knight D5 would be wrong. So once again, we see the most dangerous or the most critical Black's king is still kind of messed up. But
Yeah, actually, I thought this was dangerous for black, but now that I look at it again, it actually looks really safe.
safe?
Yeah, because c2 is hanging now, you have to defend.
Yes.
And then I'll go f6 and d5, and if necessary, king f7.
Okay. Well, you have much more experience in an open Sicilian as white than I do. We don't like this pressure on c2, but Black's king is still stuck at the moment. But how do we deal with this? May I make a bad suggestion?
Anytime you want.
I'll take liberties. I'll play king a1.
All right,
And
I'm not taking that pawn.
You're not taking the
I'm
pawn?
not touching it.
No.
I'll go f6.
f6. All right. I'll drop back. Bishop e3. So I have dreams of queen g4, maybe. Ideas and queen g6. Okay, so what do we... I'm a pawn down, but I'm hoping... By the way, you still have castles in the position.
I think white is almost lost here.
Yeah, this is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm playing like an idiot. Okay, so bishop g5,
It's
knight
actually a
e4.
button. Yeah.
Maybe... Okay, so this doesn't work. Hold on. Okay, so now I really need a recommendation here, don't I?
How about queen f3?
Okay, I'm a little bit worried about bishop b4, trying to force me to occupy d5, or maybe even b4.
Yeah, I don't like queen f3 at all.
Yeah, something feels not quite copacetic. Let's take a look at what did happen. f6, and suddenly the roof caved in. Bang! Bang! Ouch!
Yeah, you just lose a piece here.
Ouch! Oh, hold on. Isn't there a rook b8 issue? Or uh-oh. My spidey sense is tingling. Knight d5 is in the...
Something looks fishy.
Uh-oh. Let's boldly point out you cannot recapture, of course, because of the checkmate. So, in fact, rook b8 was played by Anna, and here it comes. Knight d5. Nice switchback. Queen c3, threatening the obvious checkmate, and on queen c6, check. Oh, that's a blow. King takes d8, again, just pointing out the obvious. Queen takes c6. Thank you very much. The pawn on d7 is pinned by the rook on d1, so black cannot capture the queen. She has played nicely and allowed checkmate.
Very efficient finish.
Very efficient. Wow. So, with this victory, for sure, we, depending upon David Vara's result, is going into the last round with a lead. And this kid's 15 years old.
Still 15?
Or 16.
I have
maybe.
the feeling he was 15 for more than a year now.
But he's scary, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the game of the day, or what we think will be the game of the day. Ding Liren versus Magnus Carlsen. And a strange, well, a slightly offbeat idea of Magnus to play bishop a6 in a standard Queen's Gambit decline. Normally, this light squared bishop is always on the long diagonal. And
by the way, I liked how white avoided this exchange of bishops, because he could have easily taken on a6 instead of queen e2, and maybe white is slightly better, but there's a good chance that black will equalize. But instead he's showing some fighting spirit.
With this, yeah. So just to, yes, you think that, okay, this is even slight plus for white, yeah.
Very slight.
Yeah, but that queen e2 gets your seal of approval.
Yeah.
And perhaps most especially knight b5 as well, all right? This puts a little pressure on the world champion's position. And in fact, Hans Bohm and I were looking at this position, and I thought that Ding stood well. Magnus thought for at least 20 minutes on this exact position, played knight b8, d7. And by the way, I am told that Wei has turned 16 in June of this year. Yeah,
It will turn.
will turn 16, so he's still 15.
All right.
It's scary, these young
Yes.
guys, right? Yeah. Okay, so what's happening here? Well, first of all, we do have some moves, so let's continue. Rook c1, Queen b7. All of these moves we looked at. Okay, pawn takes, knight takes. I didn't know if we were going to play knight d6 or not, by the way. So pawn takes, knight takes, b4. Normally speaking, black is happy when the knight is on e4, but there's always a rook c7 issue to pay particular attention to. Stop.
All right.
My spidey sense is tingling. Can I take?
Why would you do that?
I wanted to play rook c7.
Oh, but I think you've noticed the problem by now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to share with everybody, the knight on b5 is unfortunately hanging after.
Oh, there's an even bigger issue if I just take on c7 and the queen is hanging.
Unfortunately, that one I have seen.
Oh, wow. Oh.
It's okay. The queen d5 is a good enough. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sure.
Knight d4.
No
Okay, hold on. So this pawn is not hanging because there's suddenly a knight c7 and all kinds of things are happening. So black has to be very careful. Just a second. Hold on. Do I have the latest and greatest position in front of me? Perhaps not. Maybe I do, actually. So we're up to date. Okay. What do we got? What's happening? I'm assuming we're going to play a rook to c8.
Yeah, I'm afraid of something on e6.
Precisely. So if something drops on e6, I don't want the rook to be under attack. So let's say we're going to go rook fc8.
Okay, we have to look at knight e6.
Yes, knight e6. And now we pause because,
You can go rook
hold on.
c4.
There's another issue that the Magnus has to deal with. This knight on e4 is a little bit in mid-air, and move f2, f3 may win a piece.
I'm not sure actually.
Why? What?
There's g5.
Oh, that's a big move. Pause. This looks terrible for black. This really I mean, even something as gross as this, there's an F line being opened, there's a pawn on e6 being
That's
I
nice.
don't think that the world champion will want to. So let's
But it's
take
not the
it back.
first time he lost a piece this tournament, right?
Remind me where he lost the piece again.
Wasn't that against Wojtaszek when his bishop got trapped?
Against Wojtaszek. Good grief! I've seen so
Somewhere
many
in
games.
round, one of the earlier rounds. You should know.
I should. It should get on our monitors. We can see that Magnus, who has this, I like to say, the California cool.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
He's laid back. You've played him numerous games, actually.
But I
not
think
always with a great success, by
No.
the way. I mean, he is world champion for a reason. But sorry.
Yeah, I think he developed the sleeping pose only in more recent years. He's always had the relaxed like this pose, but now it went all the way here.
Yeah, all the way back. But now this is not his usual California cool, I've got everything under control pose. This is a worried, I'm in first place, but this guy's in third place. He will tie with me for victory. So I'm seeing issues here for Magnus, and I don't think that rook on f8 to c8 is a solution here.
Can you go knight d5?
Thank you. I was looking for a suggestion, and there we have one. So, in the first place, this is very important. We now give our knight several squares, and who knows, we are hitting e6. Okay, f4. So, let's take a look here. Okay. Good move, by the way.
Thank you.
It's better than hanging our faces. Annoyingly, also, that blocks the attack against the e6 pawn. Now I have to come up with something very clever. I'm looking at ideas of bishop h6, which look silly. I'm going to have to do better than that one. Okay, may I just look at the most forcing, because we can always do... The nice part, by the way, I don't know if you do a lot of this kind of commentaries. The nice part about the commentaries is if you blunder, you get to take the move back, right?
Yeah.
Not, okay, so we're here. And, okay, I'm trying to exploit the c7 square.
How about knight c7?
Well, okay, let's just have a look. Knight c7, I have to take the queen. We have to take the queen, so we've got this fellow on pre. Recapture. By the way, e7 was with check. But this is black escapes.
Yeah, we just lost a pawn.
Well, to begin with, and black escapes. So we want more than this out of... Oh, pardon me. Once again, we're going to go back. We have a move suggestion from a tweet account. Okay, Magnus will now take on b4 with his bishop and get exactly the game he wants. I'm not sure it's exactly the game he wants, but hold on. Bishop takes b4. Well, that's an in-your-face kind of move, isn't it? Okay, so then we ask... Well, we were looking at these e6 captures when the bishop was on e7. Now that it's kind of hit the highway, let's see what about f2, f3.
And just, I want to remember, after this we can look at knight c7. But I just
course.
wanted to remind both of us so that I won't
Yeah, okay, so we'll come back. So here the point is that bishop takes b4, snaps a pawn, which of course we both love to do, and it actually gives an escape square for the knight. So knight d2, rook d1, knight c4. Oops, black is fine. We don't even have to go further than that. So pardon me. So bishop takes b4, and how dreadfully annoying that we have. Okay, we're in, right? Just like that. Give me the rook, give me the bishop. We have to take. Now we pause because we have two recaptures. Let's take with the rook just to be annoying and put the bishop on.
Somehow I thought that taking with the
queen.
No. Well, then you have knight d2.
Yeah, at a certain moment, and that forces a response, right?
Okay, then rook c4
rook c4 reasonable. We're attacking the bishop. Knight d2 doesn't work. Rook c8 doesn't work. We're not impressed by rook c8, of course. Hold on. There's a lot of trickies here. It's not totally clear to me. Is it totally clear to you that this is good?
Yeah,
you're
confident.
You're quite confident? Why am I less confident than you here? I am less confident. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm not sure why am I less confident.
Well, I'm going to take your rook or your bishop.
You
can't stop both.
Good points. Good points, to be sure. So this... boy, okay. If I go rook c8, it's not like the knight doesn't have escape squares. It does. This is just a nice exchange, so that's ridiculous. So if I move my bishop, then again I only have a single pawn for the exchange.
Yeah, I can't say it's lost, but it's definitely bad.
Definitely bad. So I'm not sure I'm... Thank you for the suggestion. Unless we're missing something self-evident, knight c4, bishop takes b4, knight c7 looks like Whiteman's material, so we're going to go back to knight d5 for a single moment, And sorry, you were going to say we had something that you wanted to look at. That was the knight c7 variation?
Yeah, that was the bishop before knight c7.
Oh,
But we did look at it. Just
yes.
Yeah.
So you have suggested knight d5.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, okay, hold on. Okay, knight d5. And now we were looking at this line, and we came to a full stop.
Yeah.
We weren't happy with this resulting series of rather forcing captures. We've got a tweet that Ding has put his blazer on, and that usually signifies that he's getting down to business. Did you play Gary when he did the watch exercise?
I've never played him, unfortunately.
You never played Gary?
No.
Oh!
Yeah.
Well, it was an intimidating opponent, let's say. He was a very intimidating. Okay, so sorry. Back again. Knight d5. So now we've got to come up with something cool here. Is this too warped for words? What's the story with bishop e5? Just for a moment. Okay, I tell you what I have in mind. Okay, if you grab the pawn, then I wanted to grab and do a hakasito to the king and to pick up, and I just stopped here with the thought that I've damaged your king's protection. So bishop e5, for the moment, a legitimate move. Magnus, by the way, has been going into the tank. And let me just check the clock times. 52 minutes. Hold on. It's over here. Actually, the clock times are more accurate on this screen yet. It's 48 minutes that Magnus has for the time control versus an hour and 3. Not a big difference, but he's under pressure. So bishop e5. Now I've got ideas of queen g4 on my agenda. And bishop g7 as well. I'm trying to provoke the move f6, of course, because that would allow all kinds of combinational motifs against the e6 pawn. No. So bishop e5 puts the pressure on the world champion to come up with something clever.
How about rook fc8?
Rook fc8. Fair enough. Pause, because I'm looking at knight e6 and queen g4. I'm looking at bishop g7 and queen g4, and the immediate queen g4, I feel, kind of misses the mark.
Yeah, it's a bit too slow.
Exactly. So I want to...
Although actually it might still be good for white if you then drop back to g3.
Okay, so let's take a look. You're saying that queen g4, knight back to f6, queen g3, and this Peshki somehow is still worrisome.
Right.
May I be really annoying?
Yeah.
Okay. It's in my nature. I apologize. What are black's pieces on a6 and b7 doing after a move like a3? That's a cautious move. We'll come back to it. It's just saying, your turn.
I think that black might almost be ready to play f6 now.
At some moment. So if I do something crazed, with knight takes e6, fe6, queen g4, give me material, how will this progress?
It looks dangerous.
True that. It does look dangerous, but, well, you're the world champion, you're a piece ahead. Let's just continue the line.
Bishop takes f6.
Bishop takes f6. Knight takes c8 is hanging.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that's the end of the line.
True. Knight takes, bishop take. Okay, we'll put our king. I don't know. We'll take our. We take a rook. Pause. Do we take the queen? No. Yes. No. Take the queen. Take. And what do we have? 2 pawns and a rook for 2 pieces, right?
Yeah, but 2 nice bishops.
2 nice bishops. Valuation?
I would say white is slightly better, but
You were when we went for the sacrifice, we
Mhm.
were hoping for a little bit more than these. So can we speculate?
always.
Queen takes e6 check. King.
I
Where?
wouldn't go to f8 this time because
Okay.
knight d6.
That looks scary. Okay, so we're in the soup here. Now what's happening here? This is one of those positions where either you have a clean victory or you're a piece down and you're wondering why you went a little bit berserk a moment ago. I'm not 100% sure ready to give up on the line yet. What the heck is going on after e4?
What are you actually planning if I just take on b4?
Correct. I was planning to take this bishop on e7. If you take my bishop with bishop takes e4, my intentions, evil as they may appear, are rook takes c4, and just a lot of black pieces are discombobulated, hanging. I'm speculating here, you know. Again, 18 minutes on almost 19 minutes on this move, and we do have a move, by the way. What has Magnus played? Where are we, Magnus? I'm just going to. Sorry, I just refresh.
Oh, rook c8. Wait a second.
Wait a second. We were.
Oh, we were looking at the other rook.
No, yeah, we were looking at this move, which we rejected because of f3, right? And instead he played rook on a to c8.
Shall we try f3 again?
I think so. Okay, first of all, well, we get to take our moves back, as mentioned. Well, there's no choice, right? You got to take here, or what do you do?
But why are you taking?
I had some weird ideas.
I take on d6 and then b5.
Oh, pardon me. There's a. Okay, sorry. I had a brain aneurysm there. Okay, so f3 is our. What on earth is black to do about f2, f3? That really puts a challenge to the world champion. f3. Okay. Jan? You're my partner. I mean, I feel like a policeman at the scene of an accident, you know, trying to make a report for the local newspapers. There's a big problem in the position for black. His knight at the moment is looking for a solution.
But he must have some plan.
Without question. I hesitate to return to your g5, but at the moment I don't actually see another move. e5 is ridiculous. There's nothing good happening there for black. Do you see it, Jan?
No, nothing.
Just you're drawing a blank as well. Okay, so sometimes forced moves are only moves. So now we pause again because.
Well, last time f takes e4 and e5 looked good. Now it's a little less convincing because the rook on f8 is defending. But
yes. So first question: bishop e5, maybe.
Yeah, knight d7.
By the way, this is looking really scary. I suppose black is handling this.
I'm starting to think that black is okay.
Okay.
But might just be lost, of course.
It might be just okay. So we'll return for a moment to the previous line when the rook was not. We'd taken a piece. We planted our pawn on the e5 square. As we understand, we're trying to chase away this key defender of black's king. This knight on f6 has to go.
Let's say to d5.
Anywhere else, and there's maybe e6 in the position, is So we're just saying that d7 might allow nasties against e6, so we block such ideas and we go here. Again,
I guess you take f4.
Pause.
Are you looking at queen g4, rook f3?
Yeah, I am. I must confess that, you see, it happens that when you're a positional player, and I kind of consider myself in this positional school of chess, positional players always aspire to be the Michael Talls of the world. We want to play tactically and refute our own reputations. So suddenly,
that's what you're working on.
Yeah. And then when you're a tactical player, and I give you a tactical position, you start looking for positional approaches. Okay, so let's just say I'm a pawn up. Look how how nice life is. I'm a pawn to the good. I have f5. And we have a tweet to help us as we're struggling to get a handle on the position. So, thank you. It's coming next. Oh, as we say, wait, I understand. I made a mistake. If you've got tweets, help Jan and I out as we grandmasters try to struggle to understand what's going on in the position. I'm not a happy camper. First of all, I feel like I'm a pawn down.
Oh,
if
you can
I'm
take
black,
one.
Yeah, but look at that pawn shield. Well, we don't want to take with the knight because we just feel that we're leaving our king too drafty. But if we take with, at least this.
I'm not sure it's that bad for black.
It scares the bejesus out of me, actually. I'm thinking f5 is.
Somehow I've been playing this Miran structure where you sometimes get this attack.
Yeah.
And then if you survive, you're suddenly great.
Right.
So
you've got this Miran, Botvinnik pawn sacrifice
how about
experience.
I don't know, king h8?
Just to hang in there, king h8. Okay, so I want to prove my tactical prowess and pound away. I'll take. I'm assuming a recapture, or do you have some?
I was thinking maybe bishop c5.
Right.
But then again, maybe I should have played it immediately instead of king h8.
Agreed. Let's just say that you can. Now I understand the point of this move. If I take, maybe there's a series. You can take your moves back.
I'm
don't
going
worry.
To take them back.
Because I was just wanting to point out that in a whole series of captures, there's a situation where knight e3 comes with a threat of queen takes g2 mate.
Yes.
That's a serious.
In this particular case, I think it doesn't work because I take on f7. And then if king h8, queen c6.
And you're thinking that...
I have a lot of pawns there.
Yes, you do. Nice line.
Yeah.
Nice line. Okay. But those ideas exist.
So I could have won a piece here after fe6 and bishop takes b5.
Good point. Good enough for me. I'm going to, after f5, bishop to c5. Nope, bad move. Bishop to c5. I'm going to slip away with my king. Yeah? Just to get out so that this knight isn't under a pin.
But maybe now I can take on d4 and play your line.
Except I have a cheapo or a diversion in the position. I could go check, king to h8, and not fall for knight takes d4.
But rook takes c4. Oh no. Then rook take. I was thinking about rook c4, c4, knight e3. Oh, it actually still looks good.
They do. Oh, pain.
Yeah.
Oh, the pain. g2, c4, f1.
And there's also the bishop on a6, which is
actually working very nicely. So if I have to go back, you're not so well. Jesus, what is going on? Queen d5.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's black who's better.
Better? What's the body count?
It's
1, 2, 3,
5,
4,
5.
5. Oh no, I haven't won a pawn in all of this. Why is that?
Well, I took on d4, remember?
Ah, that was it. Okay, I take on f4, and now f5 is simply too slow. I have to come up with some really clever moves here for white.
By the way, on the screen I see that Ding already moved and he didn't go for f3.
All right, let's go back to the position, pardon me, and we have to take a look at some of the other games, of course.
Definitely.
But this is really positional chess.
Mhm.
A2, A3.
I understand it now, because if you go f3, I actually think that black might be alright in those lines with g5, and if the bishop comes alive, if you take on b4, you go back to c5.
Yeah, somehow winning the c5 square turned out
Mhm.
to be a very key part of black's defense. And A2, A3, well, okay, all the threats are still there for Ding. And he played it quickly. So he had
It's
anticipated.
nice.
Yeah.
I don't want any of these complications. Just go back to your thinking.
You enjoy your position,
Yeah.
and by the way, I come back to my threat. So we will come back to this crucial game. I really like to look at the game of Anish for a moment. Where are you, Anish? This is Wesley So, Anish. So, it was a Benoni reversed.
Mhm.
You have been watching,
Yeah.
and I
was
pointed
just-
out a checkmating threat. Did you see that nice little checkmate that occurs after f6?
Yeah, I was going to say what was going to happen after f6.
I thought,
Mhm.
and maybe Anish had a different approach, I thought his intention was this.
And now you want to checkmate me after short cast.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And for those of you who have seen the earlier episode of today's live coverage, I have shown this very nice standard checkmating pattern. And by the way, we do have a result. Jovova, what can we say? Just a terrible
Yeah.
result, has drawn and said, okay, stop the bleeding against Loke van Welly.
How did it go? Because I thought Luke was actually better and he had a space advantage.
We'll come to that.
All right.
Okay, so I thought that f6, knight h4 was an issue.
Well, I thought then g6. But
Okay, let's
and it's-
go.
But maybe we should not.
No, it's
on the-
okay.
all
No,
right.
let's take a look, because you know me, I like grabbing pawns. And okay, so obviously knight h4, besides setting up the obvious knight f5, it really threatens this check.
Mhm.
So your thought was, okay, how about g6 and then prove it, right? So let's try to prove it. Maybe bishop h6 to stop short castles, or f4 perhaps.
Yeah, on f4 I might be able to cast them.
Then you are going to put your
Mhm.
king in the front, yeah?
And now bishop f8.
Bishop f8, so we have to...
I'm not saying it's pretty what I'm doing, but
It's not pretty, but, you know, Grant, I like Viktor Korchnoi. He'll walk through a desert, you know, for a pawn, you know. A queen d2, by the way, gives you bishop b4 option. That wasn't my intention when I played bishop queen d2. I could go queen c1, but then I give you knight c5. And bishop takes f8, king takes f8. Maybe this is not completely convincing. Or I could play bishop takes c6. So
okay,
g6
let's say it's it's
this,
not that clear.
it's not clear. But that did not, oh, pardon me, that didn't happen. He castled. And here I thought Wesley was simply better. I had stopped
Oh,
here.
really?
No, not Wesley, pardon me, Anish.
Ah, all right.
I actually
then,
preferred
Mhm.
White's position, and I had stopped and said, I actually like White, and so I do like
At
White.
least it's easier to play. It feels like you're very safe, and who knows, maybe you'll win a pawn left or right.
Exactly. And in the meantime, somehow this bishop on g2 is just a monster bishop.
Mhm.
It's great offensively as well as defensively. I like this move a4, by the way. It's like we have a good double tweet. Okay,
Let's see
with the
it.
question and answers on the challengers as well as the masters. Give it to us. Okay. Eric, hi. I wonder how many of the players in the Masters group have played in the Challengers or the B and the C group previously? Well, as we know, we don't
Oh.
have a C group in this year's, or I don't think last
No.
year's either.
No.
So quite a number, of course.
Magnus played in all of them, of course.
Magnus, of course, played in every one. Did you play in the B group? Yes, you did.
I played
remember.
in all the groups.
Also yourself,
Yeah,
from the B, C, and A.
yeah.
ABC.
Actually, CBA. Yeah.
CBA,
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, I think only one time in the C group.
Okay. And some of the players in the B group have played. Erwin Lamy, he definitely has played in the A and B groups over the years. So, especially the Dutch are very common. And the answer is, what's our answer? Interesting question. Out of the 14 players, only Aronian, Ding, and Ivanchuk
Oh wow.
have not previously participated in any of the lower groups. Those 3 players are unique.
Wow. Yeah, maybe Aronian was too strong already when he came into the picture.
That was the problem. Okay, I like this move A4 because it really big threat at box A5. But no, it means that this rook is eyeballing this B5 square.
Yeah, there's quite some pressure on the bishop now.
This is a very pleasant position for white.
By the way, also look at the clock. Anish is now 40 minutes ahead.
Whoa. Whoa. And we have a move by... how did Wesley meet Rook B5? Rook B5, by the way.
I don't know. Did he move?
I'm not
Queen
sure.
E6.
Queen E6. This an annoying check downstairs.
I think we can just move the bishop.
Of course, we... but I like winning control of the E1 square.
But
Maybe
do you like Queen E2?
That's my problem. I don't like Queen E2. Well, hold it before I'm not sure, Jan.
Yeah, I see what you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall we show our viewers that Queen E2, nasty pin, a little bit surprise exchange sacrifice. Maybe we're saying the rook on F8.
Hold on, there's B3.
Yes, very important to toss in B3. Annoying. Oh no. Then we don't like it. No, wait. We don't like it. So bishop D2. So we move our bishop to a nice square and pleasant plus. Pleasant plus. Not a nice position for Wesley, and a very easy, harmonious play for white.
Yeah, I can see some nice moves to follow up, like rook c1, maybe h4, and
also to get... There's even, I don't think this queen is ideally placed, but there's even issues like bishop coming to d5, followed by queen c5. Maybe you'll just, in your spare time, pick up an extra pawn here.
Maybe black has to actually sacrifice a pawn. Maybe he has to just sack the b7 pawn and hope to develop.
Yeah, play actively this type of situation.
Yeah. I like this much more than staying passive.
Yes. By the way, that's one of the things that I really do believe is a big distinction between the generations, is that I think today the defensive resources of the players are extraordinary. I mean, it's not enough for you to get an advantage, but you've got to play really, really well at the top level, because the good guys, man, they defend so very well. They find, and they're not laying down, right? Okay.
Hold on a second. I
what?
see something nice happening in Ivanchuk Caruana.
We want to check with Magnus just a second. Magnus, by the way, after the move A2, A3, and we do have a tweet coming through. Seems as though Ding missed the probably winning F3. Maybe thought it was too dangerous. Lucky Magnuson.
Oh, we did look at F3,
well,
right?
only brief. Well, we didn't exhaustively look, but what we were thinking was F3, G5. Now I was taking because we thought Bishop E5, Knight D7, but there may have been shots all around here. No, I don't see them. But our analysis, such as it was taking, and now again a pause, because there's a lot of things, tactics, all kinds of captures. Our main move went e5, here, 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 and we were more or less thinking that black as a scrappy surviving. So we perhaps missed a nice moment. Can we, for example, take a pawn in a different move order?
Well, it looks really ugly, but how about e5?
Yes, we have to double check. Does e5 survive or thrive? I'm not sure. Whoa. It looks very scary to me, but maybe
I'll just take all your pieces.
Yeah. I know you will. You'll just ask me to prove it. I understand. By the way, there's a knight d6 in the position that may be a good hit.
I don't know. I also think that black has a lot of resources here, like rook c4. Or I can take stuff as well.
True. This is going to be a kind of a Donnybrook. What about? Okay, let's just throw some patties.
I'll take that.
And let me toss this guy into the ring. So my idea is, if you play bishop takes c4, I'm going to scamper with a check. Also maybe against rook takes c4. I've got some kinds of ideas like going check and taking on b7.
All right,
so
how about queen d7? Yeah?
You hang in there with queen d7. May I?
Anytime.
I wanted more. Knight takes c8 is not what I was hoping for more than knight takes c8. Darn it.
But now you want to continue very positionally.
No, I don't. I mean, I've got these beautiful knights, but I'm not satisfied. No, I am not satisfied. So let's go back here for a second. And the immediate knight d6 maybe. Ooh, there's something on f7.
What's going on f7?
I don't know. I was just noticing for the first time that I could have jumped here. Or does that work?
I don't know. What about rook c4?
Now I don't have queen g4. That was why I have previously played. I don't know. There's something hidden. Let's catch up with the players. I do apologize. A3, knight d5, and some move. No, I think moves have been played. Thank you very much, by the way, for the tweet. It felt like f2, f3, but we had trouble with these variations, what we're showing, g5 and bishop takes b4 or something. And then what has happened here? Just a moment. I'm going to come back and forth. Hold on. So I get a refresh. Against knight d5, wow, we've really turned positional, haven't we? Bishop d3. Do I like... that doesn't...
It's not the kill that we were
looking for. No, that's not a move that would satisfy the killers in the audience. For
bishop e5, right?
Yeah, that just felt right. I'm lining the stars for a bishop g7, queen g4 combination. Why didn't he play that? What do we think? Bishop f6?
Yeah, or I'm trying to make stuff like knight c3 work somehow, but it...
Well, that's really a kicker. But, whoa, there's a lot of pieces hanging. How are you meeting queen g4, Jan? You want to just play g6?
Sure, yeah. I wasn't happy about it.
And just saying, You know, I always thought of myself as a provocative player, but I realize now that you're really a provocative player, too. You like just asking your opponent, challenging your opponent to come up with some, this is weirdness. I mean, maybe you're getting away with this, which will be, well, hold on. What are we doing, Jan? I just take your knight. Oops. Isn't that an oopsie daisy?
I'm not sure if I take. What if I take back?
Geez, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit blind today. B5 doesn't trap your bishop. There's rook takes c4 in the position. But don't I have some marvelous tactics where, like something is, well, here we go. Here's one idea, at least for white, is we can just start capturing a whole lot of pieces. And
Careful, there's rook c4.
You dog. I wanted to boldly point out that both rooks are hanging, and Jan was quick to suggest rook c4, gaining a tempo to get out of free. Again, I'm not so satisfied with my...
No, you shouldn't.
No, I'm not satisfied. So, let's get to the game, because this is... But somehow bishop e5 is the move I'm pretty sure I would have played. Overlooking knight c3 and then working it out from there, right? But the move played was bishop d3, and okay, that doesn't have the snap, crackle, and pop that we wanted.
But even if you just drop back and play knight f6.
From the webcam, by the way, I was sneaking an eye over there. I saw that Magnus seemed to have captured something.
I think he took the knight on e5. And that was
he just simply resolved.
But that's a pity.
I
think you lose some of your potential with black here.
Okay, so you like this tension that exists. So beside the move, and indeed, by the way, Magnus did capture on b5. My first thought would be to grab that bishop on f4 and think after that. But what about you? You have another...
either take it immediately either take it and then knight f6 or knight f6 immediately.
Okay, something like this and this and this. Or, as you were saying, just drop back, right? But if you drop back, then this construction looks a little bit funny. I have a preference for white. No?
I'm not too sure. If I take on c1 and then rook c8,
and it looking devilishly even, or hold on. My spidey sense is tingling, and
not again.
I see an opportunity to snap a pawn. May I be so crude? And to snap a pawn on ace. I'm hopeful to meet check with, and in case of course I don't recapture with the king, but I'm safe, I'm a pawn to the good. So you need a better move than queen c1, but I think...
It might not be there.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so there was a problem, and maybe Magnus felt that he had to resolve. So what he has done, let us say, is he took. Okay, let me just refresh our board and get up to date. So you were less than enthusiastic about bishop b5, but after a series of swap,
and knight f6.
You don't like knight d6. You don't play knight d6 because this might be injurious, yes?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't.
Oops. Pretty lame. So after knight f6, well, first impressions are black is equal. He's solved certain things, and Magnus, the danger has passed. That is clear.
If he would have played this with the bishop still on the board, isn't so like you suggested, knight takes f4 and then knight f6?
All right.
Isn't there a bit more to play for?
as world champion,
Yeah.
you're always playing for the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I think Magnus in general does.
he really truly does. I mean, he's such a player that I mean, why not? I mean, he's got a. By the way, he's got a rating of near 2,900 to protect, right?
Yeah.
So he needs to get maximum scores. All right. So it looks a little bit funny, but on the other hand, White maybe plays F5. It's kind of a little annoying. I think that's annoying. Now the whole bishop. Maybe this construction you don't want to lose control over this. Pardon me, missed it by just a smidge, but you don't want to lose control of the c6 square. Okay, so f5 is maybe why Magnus had to reject the maximum.
Yeah, now
right.
it all makes sense.
It all makes. Okay, well, it's good to know. I mean, and oops, that was the blunder. And we're dropping back here, and we think that this game is more or less even. So we like Anisha's position.
Yeah.
We think this is even. We've got our producer, Macaulay, is saying, take a look at Levon Aronian's game. And he says Levon Aronian is crushing MVL. Well, how is that possible? When we left it, we were back about these parts, and I like to say boldly stating the obvious. White is dreaming of occupying the outpost d6. Levon said, be my guest. Rook c1, I was thinking that MVL was recapturing his pawn on d4 and playing for knight d6, maybe with or without a3, because a queen b4 could be annoying.
Somehow I always like these structures for black.
Well, you're a big Slav
Yeah.
player, and you like...
I like that if you make a couple of accurate moves, maybe the opponent pushes a bit too hard, and you suddenly win a pawn, and then you convert the endgame. I don't know.
Well, you were very, very successful in these structures, as you say. So, reasonable move, and out came queen b4.
You see the end wanting to
Get to the ending. So queen d3 is a kind of a suggestion that maybe
then rook c1 wasn't no good.
not so nice. Thank you very much for the... By the way, that's 2 pawns. Now a3.
He's
So
hoping to trap
MVL...
the queen maybe, but
Okay, so exactly, he's playing for a queen trap. But knight c3. Uh-oh. Now you have to rely upon knight g5 types of things, and there we go. g6. Kind of moral victory for black that he gets to trade bishops. There's no trickies. But hold on, now the knight on c3 is hanging. Away we go. And now this is your style, where you're saying to White, okay, prove it. Like
this is
you've been provoked. White has been provoked into sacrificing a pawn, and there's no checkmate, perhaps.
I'm pretty sure there's no checkmate. White has to swing over the queen to h4. But even then, you can
to
play,
make a threat. Yeah.
Then you go h5, and White will have to play for some sacrifice or a desperate g4.
Exactly. Okay, let's see what he has done. In fact, so. The problem is if we swing our queen too soon, maybe you can knight takes e5 and queen h4. Pardon me, I'll just put it on the board. And queen h4, h5, desperado sacrifices.
That shouldn't work because the knight is still protected by the queen.
Exactly. So we're not thrilled by this the caveman approach. So we play the refined rook d1, knight c5, attacking the queen. Queen has to protect the knight on d4. Shall we go into an ending? No, thank you. And are we up to date? What has happened after queen f4? Levon Aronian to play. So we're up to date. Okay. Take it away. Take it away,
Well, first of all,
Jan.
what about h6? Asking the knight.
Where do you want to go?
Mm-hmm.
But do you... What is it? I thought it was always a principle of the first world champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, not to unnecessarily weaken your king's position. So do you see the move h6 as a... you've driven the knight back.
Mm-hmm.
That's clear. But haven't you... given me a target, let's say.
I have, yeah.
You're not happy playing h5, you're going to play king h7, I suppose. But now there's...
well, I probably gave you a bit more than...
Maybe you want... Well, but you drove my knight back, right? Okay, so now I have to figure out, can I... No, I can't trap your queens with rook e3. I can't make a rook lift. I can go queen f6 and try to set up some double attacks. Queen h4, knight c6.
Nothing looks good, but I'm still not convinced that h6 was best.
Right.
Maybe there's more.
So maybe h6. But by the way, one of the things that I'm worried about is the provocative knight b2.
And how about knight d3?
And how about knight d? I'm worried about everything. Now I start to worry.
Yeah, maybe black shouldn't start going on the defensive here. You can
okay. Knight d3 forks the rook.
It's actually played now.
Has he done it?
Yeah.
Okay, we got lucky. Knight d, and a lot of pieces in white's position are hanging. We're assuming that we can't allow the rook to be captured with... Well, we're going to have to play queen h4 one day with or without rook d3, right? So let's just look at the obvious.
But shouldn't you just resign here, white?
Resign? Is it really that horrible? Because you mean there's just nothing.
Yeah,
it's
you're
just dead.
An exchange and a pawn down, and I've got the center.
Well, add up your advantages.
Yeah, and a pawn.
So add up your advantages, but knight d3 does look like, MVL just hit a dead end.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay. Wow. Vasily, shall we have a look at Ivanchuk? Let's go. I like to say, let's walk around the stage and see what other games are going on. Okay, so it looks like Magnus is heading even still. Hu Yifan, Timur Rajabov, even-ish. This was a long theoretical line. Yeah, I mean, theory between Ivan Saric and Radoslav Wojtyszek.
I think
and
backstage someone mentioned that he didn't know 28 king b1, but
28 king b1. Oh my. Fabiano Caruana Vasil.
This looks nice.
What have we got? Okay, so this was the Grunfeld ending position with that we had looked at. Knight h4. First impression is that's a step in the wrong direction.
But then, when you see the black plays bishop c8, that's a step back as well.
Okay. Now I feel a lot better about knight h4 is what I wanted to say. So bishop c4.
I was actually... We were analyzing it backstage.
Yes.
And thought it was too complicated, and then, stopped.
Well, that's good. If you think it's too complicated, you stop. But knight d4.
Yeah.
Fabiano Caruana saying, okay, you, meaning white, you've kind of set your pieces a little bit up for some trickies. What is
So if you take with the pawn, then rook takes d4 and everything starts hanging. That's
yes.
the idea.
So you think to yourself, oh, I've got everything covered. I protect these two guys, and then you wake up to, no, a lot of pieces are hanging. So what has Vasil done? He's gotten a move. He's gotten one of his pieces off the throw. And nonetheless, rook takes d4 with a similar threats of
Yeah, he
takes
saved
and
one
takes.
piece, but there was another piece behind her.
Okay, so knight g6. Check. Okay, I can live with that. King f1. Oops.
Isn't it just good for black, or?
First impression is great for black. What is going on?
Oh, that's a nice one.
There was a really wonderful, wonderful book, Domination in the Endgame. It was a studies where, on an open board, a knight dominates a rook. The bishop. And right now, after this move, bishop d5, the first impressions are, well, gee, where do the pieces go?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. Bishop f4. What has happened next?
Oh, but I can easily see this going into a drawn opposite corner, bishop ending.
It's terrible that sometimes you go through this whole very forcing sequence of capture, and then it's just a dead draw. So what has happened after bishop f5?
I think this is the current position.
So what we mean to suggest is after takes, check, king, takes. Well, is it so dead?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Whoa. A moment there we were very enthusiastic about Fabi's chances. Suddenly Ivanchuk is... so we're... Oh, pardon me. No, I have no choice.
No.
I must take. I was just... What are the options? Again, it looks all very forcing.
Wait a second. Bishop d3 check. After rook a1.
Very important. Okay. We've missed it. We took too quickly, and very important Zwischenzug, and now we understand your prophetic bishops of opposite color ending in a draw. And that's fair enough. That looks like that is going on. Wow. Okay, what have we not seen? This is... Sorry, I want to come back to the game of Wesley So.
Oh, this actually happened? So he did sack the pawn.
Yes. And also, he didn't play bishop d2 because of that annoying queen e2 move. Bishop f4, bishop d7, bishop... They're playing all of our themes. Queen d6, gift me the pawn. Just a moment. We would definitely consider queen b3 because we want to protect the bishop on d5 and not fall for any tactics. But he has played queen d1. What do you think about that move? He wants to go perhaps...
That's a bit curious. Yeah.
ballistic over here, maybe?
It's a bit strange.
Okay, so bishop e6. Okay, white's... Sorry, I am... Sorry, I apologize. I just put... Why didn't he play queen b3? There's something genuinely good about protecting your pieces. And I might just point out something like silly for argument's sake. Like, let's put this bishop, I don't know, on a decent square. There's even, such opportunities, where somehow, if you don't get mated, which is very important, of course, your A-pawn just does a good job there. But that was not Anish's choice. He has played queen d1, and again, this is a hugely important game for the tournament standings, and we've got this situation. I still like Anish's position very much.
I think after queen b3, maybe there was bishop c6.
Thank you. Did not consider that too deeply. After queen b3, bishop c6, and maybe there's less fun in the position than we wanted. Aha. And the difference is, in the game with our queen on d1, bishop c6 is met by rook b6, and there's no tempo against the queen. Very nice.
So when they play strange move, they might actually
have an idea. Okay, and in the game we do have this position after bishop e6. My instinct would be to preserve the bishop.
Yeah.
I would want to keep the bishop, but then my extra pawn is not as meaningful, but I do have an active rook. Still, I prefer white's position.
White is definitely better.
Without question, yeah? Okay, let's go back, because
I would also quickly want to
Yes.
play h4 here, just to make sure that I'm never going to get any g5 tricks or any... I like to play h4, and then there's no bishop h3 trapping my king. Just to have have some space there.
Well, exactly. There's no bishop h3, and it's very reminiscent. I don't know. Did you study by chance the games of Bent Larsen? He was a very big proponent of playing h4 and h5 in many, many positions. He just threw out his h-pawn.
I did study Bosbaum's game.
Oh, but Manuel, he likes to push out his g-pawn as well. I don't know, I agree. I like h4 only in the sense that not only do you kind of give your king a little bit more space, but you do protect your bishop from a g5 break. I'm told there's some drawing mechanism. Let me just go and have a look at the game. We're going to go back to Levon Aronian.
So
Up.
yeah, there on the left.
There we go. Oh, no.
Down.
There. Yes. Let's see what we've got. So we left it with knight d3. We were looking at rook d3, which was hopeless. This came with a check. h5. Knight e4. Okay, knight e4. But I don't... now I get it. So the point is, if we go queen takes, we have check. We don't want to go to the g7 square. But if we go here, we don't have the move f2f. We have this, but this threat of mate gives us a perpetual, right?
Yeah. I think we've missed something.
Yes, we've missed something. Okay. How about rook takes? But
Isn't
that
it
doesn't
very similar?
Yeah, it doesn't change the basic perpetual and the the
So we should have played h6.
a very narrow escape. Can we? Do you mind? Shall we just go back a moment here? This knight on d3 taking e1. One thing I might just point out is in such a position, there's one key difference. I have this.
And how does it continue?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that the knight on d3 might be useful in terms of grabbing the f2 pawn. But I still...
Well, it looks winning for black, that's for sure.
It has that, it definitely has that feel about it, that it should be winning. Maybe knight e1, which, I mean, in a blitz game, you would play knight e1 and deal. And it just so happens that knight e4 would be a narrow escape. I was just talking about the defensive resources of the players, and if there's such a possibility, they'll find it. This perpetual checks. A narrow escape, I would say, for MVL.
Yeah, he was definitely lost.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Wow. Okay. Big. And Levon Aronian may be sitting here saying, oh man, it's like when it rains it pours. You're having a bad result. Suddenly you think you're on the verge of victory, and then you're snatched.
And he doesn't look too happy there.
No. I think somehow, but then again, he really must be kicking himself. He has to imagine what could his opponent possibly do other than resigning.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to consider that knight e4, in this position, he may have said, okay, my opponent has to resign.
He didn't.
He didn't. He plays knight e4, and where's my win? Okay, come on, let's just see. One more look. So we take, check, and where do we go?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because, again, this is a simple perpetual check repetition.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. Oh dear. It looks like an extraordinary save here. All right. Again, back to Wesley.